welcome to today's explainer. You know, we hear so much about hitting the gym, getting our steps in, drinking enough water, basically optimizing our bodies. But you know what we almost never talk about? Hitting the gym for our brains. And honestly, that's wild, right? Because when life throws those completely unexpected and sometimes deadly curveballs at us, a strong brain is our ultimate survival tool. So today, we're diving into the mind-blowing neuroscience of how you can actually build a stronger, more resilient brain to tackle the stuff you never saw coming. To give you a taste of what I mean by a surprise challenge, picture this incredible story from our source material. The speaker is out for a gorgeous hike in Phoenix, Arizona. Perfect day, right? But then, out of nowhere, rattle. Boom. He gets nailed on the back of the leg by a rattlesnake. Now he turns to his wife, explains the venom is spreading, mentions he was an Eagle Scout, and asks her to, well, suck out the venom. Her response? Absolutely priceless. She says, there's a thing called a divorce. I mean, wow. She did eventually help him out, but only after making him record his funeral oration on her cell phone first, just in case. And that hilarious, terrifying moment brilliantly sets up our main question for today. How on earth do you prepare for life's unexpected strikes? I mean, you can't exactly study for a random rattlesnake bite on a Tuesday, right? By the way, when the rescue chopper finally showed up for our hiker, the pilot hopped out and literally said, "Hi, I'm Captain Kirk." The hiker's thinking, okay, if you're Captain Kirk, I'm the Easter Bunny. It's a funny story now, but the reality is dead serious. We can't predict a sudden medical emergency, a layoff, or a family crisis. There is no textbook you can memorize for those moments. So let's really dive into this. Since we can't see the future, our absolute best defense is a stronger, highly adaptable brain. And that brings us to the science of neurogenesis. We're going to look at what neuroscientists have actually discovered about our brain's physical ability to change, grow, and strengthen itself so that we're ready for whatever the universe decides to throw our way. 85 billion. That is the staggering number of neurons hanging out in your head right now. Think of your brain like the engine of a super advanced sports car, constantly running, controlling literally everything you do. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't grab coffee with a friend, you couldn't even process the words I'm saying right now without it. Those 85 billion neurons are just constantly firing, connecting through trillions, yes, trillions with a T, of synapses. But here's the crazy part. For decades, the scientific community had an incredibly depressing view of this engine. The longstanding myth was that your brain's fluid intelligence, your ability to recall names, think on your feet, solve new problems, essentially peaked right around age 25. And after that, well, the old belief was that it was all downhill. You just slowly lost neurons, degenerating year by year until the end. Pretty grim stuff, right? Thankfully, modern tech like MRIs and PET scans have totally rewritten that grim story. Neuroscientists can now peek inside a living, breathing brain, and what they found is a total game changer. It's called neurogenesis. This is the biological process where the brain actually grows brand new neurons. Let that sink in. If you blow out your knee, you can't just grow a new one. But your brain? You can actively grow new brain cells and bulk it up through the mental equivalent of resistance training. Okay, so how do we actually do this mental resistance training? The secret ingredient here is creativity. See, during the day, the left side of your brain, that analytical executive side, acts kind of like a strict governor. It sorts data, makes logical sense of the world, and keeps you totally on track. But when that governor clocks out, like when you go to sleep, your right brain gets fully unleashed. That's exactly why your dreams are so bizarre, or why you wake up with a light bulb idea, or why you solve a massive problem while you're just standing there washing your hair in the shower. That is your creative brain flexing its muscles. Now, we are all born incredibly creative. Just look at toddlers. They learn thousands of words and insanely complex grammar rules all on their own by the time they're 5. It's genius. But as we grow up, traditional schooling and corporate jobs kind of, beat that raw creativity right out of us. We're taught to follow the rules, color inside the lines, get the A, appease the boss. Now, the system isn't evil, but it definitely suppresses our natural creative instincts. So to spark that neurogenesis, we have to intentionally build habits to invite that creativity back in. So here is your game plan. If you want to trigger a neurogenesis starting tomorrow, you need 3 main things in your life: solitude, humor, and exercise. Let's break down exactly how each one of these magic ingredients unlocks your creative right brain. First up on the list, solitude. We live in an era where we are just constantly bombarded with noise, right? Text messages pinging, emails dropping, social media feeds that literally scroll to infinity. Your analytical left brain is working massive overtime just to process it all. But by building moments of quiet solitude into your day, maybe that's meditating, taking a walk without your phone, or honestly, just sitting in silence for a few minutes, you finally give that analytical governor a break. And when the left brain rests, the creative right brain steps into the spotlight.
Habit number 2 is humor. Okay, picture this. You're an early humanoid on the plains of East Africa, thousands of years ago. A group of strangers is walking up to you holding spears. You obviously don't have a smartphone to text them and say, "Hey, we come in peace." So what did early humans do? Anthropologists actually suggest they did funny little dances. They used humor to signal friendliness and diffuse the tension. Shifting into a humorous mindset like that instantly pulls you out of your rigid left brain and drops you right into the creative side to solve problems.
And the third daily habit is something you already know is great for your body, but man, it is pure magic for your brain: physical exercise. Modern brain scans prove that when you get your heart rate up, you are actively pushing blood flow straight into your brain, and that directly fuels the growth of new neurons. Plus, exercise floods your system with endorphins, which relax your mind and set up the absolute perfect environment for creativity to thrive. Okay, so you're getting some solitude, you're laughing more, and you're hitting the gym. You're growing new neurons and sparking all this creativity. Now what? How do we actually channel that brain power into surviving life's unpredictable strikes? Well, let me introduce you to what our source calls the problem-solving secret sauce. Think of this as the framework that turns your new biological brain growth into a highly practical survival tool. To really grasp this secret sauce, let's look at a massive historical surprise. Imagine Lewis and Clark trekking across the plains. They're expecting a relatively straightforward hike to the Pacific Ocean. But then, boom, they are suddenly staring down the massive, towering, seemingly impossible to cross Rocky Mountains. They completely didn't see it coming. It was a mission-ending obstacle. To survive, they had to rely on applied creativity, leaning heavily on the profound local knowledge of Sacagawea to find a hidden, creative pass through those peaks. So the million-dollar question is, how do we replicate that kind of creative breakthrough in our own modern lives? When you get hit with a personal or professional surprise, you pull out this 3-step creative method. Step 1, truly, deeply understand the problem and its root cause. Step 2, ideation. Just brainstorm as many wild, out-of-the-box solutions as humanly possible without judging any of them. And step 3, create criteria to filter those wild ideas down to reality. Let's ground this with something super relatable, like buying a car. You walk onto a dealership lot and there are dozens of cars that all look fantastic. How do you actually choose? Well, you apply step 3 of the secret sauce. You weigh your criteria. You figure out what matters most to you right now. Is it the sticker price, the safety rating, gas mileage, how cool it looks? You rank those criteria from 1 to 5, and then you score your options against them. This is exactly how you organize raw creative thinking into a solid, actionable plan. But listen, this secret sauce isn't just for car shopping. It absolutely works in life or death situations too. Years ago, the speaker from our source was serving in the Peace Corps in a super remote, isolated village in Kenya. Suddenly, he froze up. He couldn't even stand. He was in the deadly early stages of malaria right during the rainy season. No doctors, no phones, the roads are totally washed out. Pure panic mode, right? But instead, he and his wife used the secret sauce. They ideated fast, remembered that local religious missions usually had basic medical staff, and they hiked to the nearest one. A nun opens the door, takes one look at him, says, "Don't move," and comes back with this massive syringe that literally saved his life. Creativity saved the day when a textbook never could have. And that intense story brings us to the ultimate reason why we put in all this hard work to spark neurogenesis in the first place. It all comes down to a fascinating concept researched by Dr. Cherie All out of a cognitive research center in Chicago. You see, you aren't just growing brain cells for the fun of it. You are actively investing in your future resilience. Dr. All explains it like this. When you build those new neurons, you are essentially opening a cognitive bank account. Every single time you tackle that difficult course you've been putting off, or you struggle through learning conversational Spanish, or you awkwardly try to pick up the guitar, you are making a direct deposit into a cognitive money market. You are literally banking physical brain power so that when a tragedy or a massive surprise strikes, you have the neural funds ready to withdraw to help you navigate the chaos. But wait, it gets better, because this isn't just about mere survival. It's about what we call the double bottom line. And this connects straight back to ancient philosophy. Thousands of years ago, Aristotle figured out that human happiness fundamentally comes down to setting a tough goal and actually achieving it. When we use our newly upgraded brains to tackle hard things, we aren't just surviving the day, we are unlocking a deep, profound sense of human happiness. Think about it like a kid learning how to ride a bike for the first time. It is incredibly frustrating at first, right? They wobble, they fall, they skin their knee, there are tears. But they keep getting back on that seat because the goal matters so much to them. And then finally, that magical moment happens. They catch their balance and they get airborne. The whole world just opens up. There is absolutely no substitute for the joy and self-actualization of achieving a hard-fought goal. That is the feeling a stronger brain gives you access to. Because here is the hard truth. Life is going to deal you some heavy blows. We all know about post-traumatic stress, the very real, very heavy toll of experiencing loss or violence. But a strong, highly creative brain unlocks the other side of the coin, post-traumatic growth. This is your ability to dip into that cognitive bank account, use your creative problem solving, and actually rebuild your life after losing a loved one or getting laid off or facing a massive crisis. It's your innate biological ability to recover, adapt, and move forward. There's this incredibly beautiful scene in the movie Little Miss Sunshine that captures this whole idea perfectly. The grandfather is looking back on his life, talking to his teenage grandson, and he tells him that of all the things he experienced, what he is most proud of isn't the easy breezy successes. He says, "I remember most when I was knocked down by life, and I got back up. I got back in the game." Having a stronger brain is exactly the tool that allows you to get back in the game. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with one big question to chew on. What creative challenge are you going to start tomorrow to fund your cognitive bank account? Are you going to carve out 10 minutes of pure solitude? Are you going to finally try learning that new language? Are you going to look for the humor in your next stressful meeting? The journey to a smarter, more resilient brain starts with just one single creative step. Take that step tomorrow, and trust me, I'll be right here rooting for you as your #1 cheerleader. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and keep learning.